Eyewitness News at noon with Bill Burns and Patty Burns.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eleanor Schano. Bill and Patty Burns are off this noon. In the news at this hour, Tennessee Governor Ray Blanton called the fire at the jailhouse over the weekend one of the, quote, greatest tragedies we've ever had in Tennessee. Authorities say they plan to charge 16-year-old Andy Zimmer, a runaway from a Wisconsin juvenile detention center, with arson for starting that blaze.
Hours at the Murray County Jail, which was filled to near the prisoner capacity of 60 inmates. Screams of fire, and within minutes, 42 people were dead, 34 prisoners, and 8 visitors, including 5 members of one family. The Army sent in medical evacuation helicopters to help shuttle the injured to hospitals. At least 12 of those who survived were listed in critical condition. Officials said the death toll was expected to rise.
It was about 1:30 when it happened. The visitors was there. And somebody in the padded cell started a fire. And they opened the door. I guess the boy was on fire because he was screaming and hollering. And they come running out, the visitors run out, all that I seen. When they opened the door, flames shot up through the hall. And we went to banging on the door for them to open the door, but they never did come and open it. And then smoke got in there so thick and black that it just blotted the lights out. We couldn't see our hands before the face.
Officials said the jail's only padded cell was set ablaze by its sole occupant, Andy Zimmer, a 16-year-old fugitive from a Wisconsin home for the mentally disturbed. Burned badly, he survived. But officials said thick black smoke from the burning mats in his cell stampeded the visitors, who ran toward the door screaming fire and knocking cell door keys from the hands of a guard preparing to release the other prisoners. The official said it was 12 minutes before the keys were found in the smoke. Meanwhile, many of the prisoners ran screaming for help toward the showers in the back of the barracks-like cell block, but were overcome within 4 minutes by the smoke and were later found dead, piled up in a corner. The jail's ventilation system spread the smoke quickly to other parts of the one-floor cross-shaped facility. One report said that because of a successful jailbreak last week, tighter security had been imposed, and that more than the normal number of doors had to be unlocked to get to the prisoners when the fire broke out. Some of the hospitalized prisoners blamed their jailers for what they termed unnecessary loss of life.
And all I seen was the fire and the smoke. And then everybody was trying to get out. And the dispatcher was scared to let them out because he thought we was trying to escape. You know, he could have saved some lives, but he didn't.
In desperation, firemen finally smashed through the reinforced walls and used a wrecker to rip out bars in an attempt to reach the trapped prisoners. Many of the bodies and some of the survivors were taken out through these holes. Today, medical examiners will examine blood samples and perform autopsies on some of the victims to determine the exact cause of death. The state fire marshal's office will begin an investigation, and Tennessee Governor Ray Blanton has ordered the state corrections commissioner to find out what caused the fire described as the worst of its kind in the state's history. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Nashville.
And in Locust Grove, Oklahoma, the search continues today for Jean Leroy Hart, the convicted rapist-kidnapper who was wanted in the deaths of 3 Girl Scouts 3 weeks ago. Law enforcement officials believe Hart is hiding in a hilly area near where the girls were murdered on June 13th. Meanwhile, Mays County District Attorney Sid Wise said officials are still not ruling out other suspects in the case. He would give no other details. In New York, the man police have dubbed the .44 caliber killer struck again over the weekend, this time wounding his 2 intended victims. The young couple was injured as they sat in a parked car in Queens. The shooting developed and it followed the pattern of the killer's earlier attacks in which 5 persons have been murdered, 4 others wounded over the past year. In other news closer to home, in Harrisburg, the state legislature will try again today to hammer out a new budget, only 3 days before the June 30th deadline. This time, it looks like the economic package will be determined by 6 persons, a conference committee of 3 senators and 3 representatives. That is because if the House approves a new budget today, the Senate is sure to reject it. House Speaker Kay Leroy Irvis told reporter Judy Fielder that whatever the legislature decides, there's going to be bad news for state taxpayers.
I would think, Judy, that we're looking down the throat of at least an increase from 2.0 to 2.3 on the flat income tax. Business is certainly looking down the throat of the cannon pointed at the corporate net income tax, which is now at 9%, probably jumping to 10. There's also a possibility of changing the rate of the sales tax instead of hitting the income tax, changing the rate to 7% and eliminating some of the present exemptions. But anytime you have to raise close to $500 million, all of us are going to have to suffer. It's too bad to say it, but I'm not going to lie to the people and say we can work miracles. We cannot.
So they can expect to dig a little deeper.
Either that, or if we are forced into passing a no-tax budget, then the state is going to run broke in 9 months.
If there's no new agreement on a new budget by this Thursday, paychecks will be cut off to 108,000 state workers and money for 800,000 welfare recipients. Well, federal agents say they found no significant new clues in last Friday's bombing of a Penn Hills home, but parts of a clock-like device found at the scene are now undergoing a lab analysis. 2 bombs were apparently used in the blast at the home of Croatian Fraternal Union President John Badanovic. It's believed that the bombings may have been the work of radicals supporting independence for Croatia. Well, the NAACP holds its 68th annual convention and bids farewell to Roy Wilkins. That story next.
The great Armour hot dog controversy. Are Armour hot dogs really just for kids? Sure, kids love their juicy taste. But you see, Armour hot dogs have no cereals or fillers. That juicy meat flavor comes through for everyone.
Hey, put car 52 up there.
Armour hot dogs, the dog everyone loves to bite. Reach for quality, reach for the stars. Armour.
Hills has wheels, lots of them, all kinds of wheels. Fast wheels for action, flashy wheels for show, sporty wheels and speedy wheels for kids on the go. Wheels you can pedal and wheels you can roll, wheels you can ride in, wheels you can tow. Wheels that go, and so, whenever there's someplace important to go, Hills wheels, lots of them. Look them over. At Hills, everyday low prices. It's the only way to go. Hills, the anti-inflation department store with low prices every day.
Tonight at 10, TV2 presents this month's Impact Special. Andy Gastmeyer is your host as KDKA TV looks at the environment. What about the air we breathe? How safe and clean is our water supply, and how much noise is too much? This 2-part special begins at 10 with an environmental trilogy when we'll ask some questions. At 11:30, we'll get the answers from the experts. Impact, Part 1, an environmental trilogy. Tonight at 10, here on TV2.
The NAACP starts its 68th annual convention in St. Louis today. Some 4,000 delegates are expected to attend the week-long session. One item on the civil rights group's agenda will be to pay farewell to Roy Wilkins, who is retiring as executive director after 22 years.
NAACP members are beginning one of the biggest conventions in the organization's history today. Thousands of delegates coming to say goodbye to Roy Wilkins, the man who's led them for 22 turbulent years. At his last news conference as head of the organization yesterday, the 75-year-old Wilkins talked about his retirement from the civil rights forefront.
The Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. That is the sum total of the fight against segregation.
51-year-old Benjamin Hooks, a lawyer and federal communications commissioner, takes control on August 1st. What do you consider the prime or critical issues to be covered not only at the convention but ongoing policies of the NAACP?
Well, you know, it's very difficult to separate 3 or 4 of them. One is, of course, the quality of education in this country. We're very concerned that we have hundreds of thousands of young people finishing the 12th grades of public school unable to read or write very well, black and white. We have to be concerned about jobs and full employment because it's very difficult when in the teeming ghettos of our big cities, 50% of our young teenagers are unemployed. It's very difficult to build a viable and stable race. And we know now that unless there are jobs for all Americans, blacks won't have jobs. And then we're concerned about welfare and how old people have come to the end of their lives and have to live very meager and bare lives. And we're also concerned about an adequate national health insurance program.
News from overseas, 27 persons are reported dead, another 7 injured following a train crash in East Germany this morning. The government news agency reports that a passenger train and a freight train collided 40 miles east of Berlin. Other passengers are reportedly still trapped in the wreckage. Rescue work will continue this afternoon. President Carter is expected to announce a decision sometime this week on whether he'll allow production to continue on the B-1 bomber program. The Defense Department predicts Carter will put his seal of approval on the program, but will authorize fewer than the 244 bombers that the Air Force requested be built. And President Carter has proposed a $115 million arms package for Israel that reportedly includes anti-tank missiles, armored personnel carriers, and tank bulldozers. Israeli Prime Minister Begin expressed his gratitude for the arms aid.
I would like to use this opportunity and thank President Carter for his decision. Of course, the citizens of Israel appreciate it. It's a good decision, and we hope it is also a sign of real friendship between the United States and Israel. As I said in the Knesset, we hope to deepen that friendship.
And 66 Vietnamese refugees begin a new life in Israel today. The refugees were rescued by an Israeli freighter from a fishing boat in the South Sinai Sea. They were given asylum in Israel after leaving Hong Kong and after Japan, rather, and Hong Kong refused to accept them. However, many Vietnamese refugees are still having trouble finding a new home.
They're unwelcome in most places, and few countries will accept them. They come out of Vietnam on small boats and often drift around the South China Sea like bits of human flotsam and jetsam until they are picked up, wash ashore, or drown. These young Vietnamese from Saigon tell a typical story. After 7 days at sea, their fishing boat ran into a typhoon and their engine broke down.
We got no help from any merchant marine go by.
Several vessels passed them by until they were picked up by the Tomoko, a Japanese-owned freighter with a Filipino captain, Edgar Silverio. Many ships are under orders from their owners not to pick up Vietnamese refugees, but Captain Silverio told his company in a letter that he would have felt anxious and guilty about leaving the Vietnamese to their fate. In the port of Bangkok, the Vietnamese were refused permission to disembark, and Thai police guards were put aboard. In some cases, Vietnamese are turned away at port after port and remain aboard ship for weeks and months. But despite the risks, more than 3,000 have fled Vietnam this year. Peter Collins, CBS News, aboard the Tomoko in Bangkok Harbor.
First Lady Rosalind Carter left Washington last week on her first trip since her tour of Latin America. Part of the trip involved Mrs. Carter's interest in mental health, but the last leg of the trip provided some nostalgia for the First Lady.
Meetings of the Mental Health Commission held out west were part of the long process of developing a set of policy recommendations for the administration. Chairman Rosalind Carter is guiding the commission with a firm hand, telling the members at one point to be realistic in their expectations. She said, "I can't go to Jimmy and ask him to cure racism and sexism and all of the things that are wrong with society." From California, it was on to Hawaii. There, Mrs. Carter dedicated a new $37 million federal building, one that will house 24 government agencies. While her mother was conducting official business, Amy Carter, on her first trip to Hawaii, found a convenient swimming hole. This was, in one way, a nostalgic visit for the First Lady. 27 years ago, she and the young naval officer Jimmy Carter lived in this 2-bedroom house at 318 6th Street on the grounds of the Pearl Harbor Naval Station. Mrs. Carter spent time with the young couple who now live there and told them how she used to leave the oven door open to keep her son Chip warm. But she said the place had changed a bit.
We had a trellis in front that had wood roses growing on it, and we had hibiscus around that grew up to the top of the house, and banana trees on the side, big banana trees.
What kind of nostalgic feelings did you have?
Well, I just wish Jimmy was with me.
With Amy in tow, Mrs. Carter toured the Mauna Loa volcano area on the Big Island, Hawaii. Amy gathered pieces of lava to take back home, but was warned that such things anger the goddess Pele and often bring bad luck. She decided not to tempt fate. She put them back.
Well, in this area, the Hammam Golf Tournament is going on right now at the Shanapan Country Club in Ben Avon. Proceeds from the event aid the West Penn Golf Association's Caddy Scholarship Foundation. Among the entries this year, our own golfer, duffer that is, Greg Benedetti. He's at Shanapan right now. He's here with this live mobile eye report. Greg?
Here at Shanapan Country Club, it's a very warm and bright day for golf, and this is the 15th annual Hammam Golf Tournament. And with me here, to my extreme side, is John Henderson, who'll be a senior at North Hills High School. He's one of the caddies today. And this gentleman is sort of like the granddaddy of golf all throughout western Pennsylvania, the founder of the Hammam Tournament, the very distinguished Mr. Jim Potts. And Jim, this is quite an event for you, and it's also quite an event for the Caddy Scholarship Fund. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Oh, it's a great event. It always has been. The Hammam has distributed around $110,000 for a Caddy Scholarship program, and they do a terrific job. Jim Diley and Shanapan, you've got to congratulate them. But these boys, they are wonderful fellows. The jobs that they get because of, I'm going to say because of us, is greatly, it's very heartwarming to me to hear these boys come up and say to me, dozens of them have already come up today and said, oh boy, it's great to have a Caddy Scholarship.
John, you're a senior at North Hills High School next year. This Caddy Scholarship Fund could someday benefit you. Your thoughts on today's event?
I think it's a great day. I think we have a good gallery coming out here. It's nice weather. It'll bring a lot of people. Good golfers.
You've been hearing from John Henderson from North Hills High School and Mr. Golf in Western Pennsylvania, Jim Potts. And I don't want to tell you how I'm playing today, but let me say that a little later on, Bishop Leonard's going to come out here to give my game the last rites. I'll tell you that. Right now,
let me give you some instruction. Hit them fur and sell them.
Okay, Jim. Right now, let's go back to the First Lady back at the news desk, Eleanor Schano, for more news this lunchtime.
Okay, Greg, and by the way, we'll have another live mobile eye report from Shanapan on the 6 o'clock Eyewitness News. And we'll be back with more sports, stocks, and the weather, and some people in the news.
Turn to TV2 this week for all of the action as we bring 6 big pirate telecasts your way. This is Milo Hamilton, and Game 1 of our 6-game TV schedule begins Tuesday night at 9 from St. Louis. The Lumber and Lightning Gang battles the St. Louis Cardinals, and I hope you'll be on hand for all the play-by-play. The best seat in the house for baseball is TV2 Tuesday night at 9 as the Pirates battle the Cardinals.
Leonard Nimoy is your host for a look into the world of the unknown. Join TV2 Tuesday night at 7:30 as we go in search of. Tuesday night at 7:30 on TV2.
Well, in sports, the Pirates began a grueling 16-game road trip in St. Louis. They begin it tonight, against the Cardinals. Left-hander Jerry Royce is scheduled to pitch for the Pirates, and that's against Cardinal left-hander Pete Falcone. At Three River Stadium yesterday, the Bucks split a doubleheader with the Montreal Expos. Pirates won the opener 7-4, but they dropped the nightcap 6-3. That loss ended as 6-game winning streaks by the Pirates and dropped them 7 1/2 games behind the league-leading Chicago Cubs. Well, former National Basketball Association Commissioner Walter Kennedy is dead following a long bout with cancer. Kennedy served as NBA Commissioner from 1964 through 1975, presided over the merger between the NBA and the American Basketball Association. Kennedy was 64. The stock market was down during the first hour of trading. The Dow Jones average at 11:30 a.m. was 924.86. That's down 4.84. The volume was 5,070,000 shares traded. We'll have the closing stock report on the news at 6 o'clock this evening. Here's the latest weather forecast for the Pittsburgh area. It comes from the National Weather Service. Couldn't be better. Partly sunny this afternoon, high in the mid-80s. Increasing cloudiness tonight. We'll have low temperatures in the mid-60s. It'll be cloudy tomorrow with a chance of a brief thunder shower. High again on Tuesday in the mid-80s. Chance of rain today near zero. 20% tonight and 40% tomorrow. Current downtown temperature is 80 degrees. Winds are coming from the southeast at 7 miles an hour. Well, these people are making news this noon. Actress Jane Wyman has been honored by the Arthritis Foundation for Distinguished Volunteer Service. Miss Wyman received the Charles B. Harding Award over the weekend at the foundation's annual meeting in San Francisco. For the past 9 years, Miss Wyman has served as the volunteer chairman of the foundation's Southern California chapter. John Hancock, the director of the $10 million sequel to the film Jaws, has quit after only 3 weeks of filming. Hancock, who also directed the film Bang the Drum Slowly, said creative differences and apparent discontent over the performances of some cast members were his reasons for leaving the production. Hancock's wife, Dorothy Tristan, who co-authored the script, walked out with her husband. Former California Governor Edmund Pat Brown, the father of California's present governor, is scheduled to be released today from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, where he underwent prostate surgery 8 days ago. The 71-year-old Brown is reported to be recovering well. He's in good condition. Brown served as governor of California from 1958 to 1966. And Virginia Congressman Paul Tribble has decided to put his money where his mouth is. Tribble, who opposed the pay hikes members of Congress received earlier this year, has established a scholarship fund at Hampton Institute and Hampden-Sydney College in Virginia with the funds from his recent pay raise. 2 $1,000 a year scholarships reportedly will go to students in Tribble's congressional district who show evidence of becoming, quote, leaders of tomorrow. And some people who have had a corner on the watchmaking market for quite a while are feeling the effects of the digital watch boom.
The Swiss didn't invent the mechanical clock. A German or Italian or Frenchman did, depending on who you want to believe. But for 500 years, Switzerland has been building more clocks better than anybody else. And since 1910, when some forgotten genius got the idea of strapping his pocket watch to his wrist, the Swiss have been building more and better watches, too. The little old watchmakers were doing just fine here until the space age came along, but now they're in trouble. The trouble the Swiss watch industry is having is with this, the digital watch, made in the USA or Japan. And it has made the Swiss watch as obsolete as the sundial. It's full of batteries and quartz crystals and printed circuits, and it can be mass-produced and sold eventually for as little as $10. People are buying them so fast that Switzerland's share of the world watch market has dropped 10% in the last couple of years. Swiss watchmaking has always been a cottage industry, emphasizing craftsmanship, and so it's hard for Swiss watchmakers to mass-produce anything. A few Swiss firms are starting to market digital watches, but most poo-poo the electronic watch as a passing fancy. The jobs of tens of thousands of Swiss watchmakers depend on whether the digital watch is the watch of the future or just a fad. But don't despair for the Swiss yet. Anybody who can make a clock that can tell you the time, the season, the month, the day, the phase of the moon, the position of the sun, the sign of the zodiac, and use 26 moving figures to do it isn't going to be defeated by a $10 printed circuit. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, Geneva.
And a group of people who know there is life on other planets is meeting in Chicago. We'll have that story next.
When dinner's done and it's close to 8, we have an apple streusel crepe, because Stouffer's brings them home.
Somebody must have had a hunch that we love mushroom crepes for lunch. Stouffer's brings them home.
Introducing crepes from Stouffer's. 7 different kinds. For meals, desserts, whenever you like.
Beef burgundy crepes, a glass of wine. Now we enjoy them anytime, because Stouffer's brings crepes home.
Hi, I hope you'll be with me on my next show when we'll meet a very special expectant mother who shares her experience with us and will discuss maternal health and nutrition and more. Join me, won't you?
I guess from time to time we all wonder if there's life on other planets. A group of people who are certain there is are holding a convention in Chicago.
It's called the First International UFO Congress, a gathering of some of the 15 million Americans who claim they've seen unidentified flying objects. It's an anniversary of sorts. 30 years ago, a private pilot, Kenneth Arnold, says he spotted 9 mysterious objects flying around Mount Rainier, and thus began the flying saucer era.
They would flutter and sail, and it seemed that they can fly on edge. It gives you the impression of effortless flight. They could fly on edge just as easily as they could flatwise.
In the past 3 decades, the UFO phenomenon has become big business. Scores of books have been written on the subject, and just about every one is on sale here. For delegates who get bored with the lectures and seminars, there are 12 hours of Hollywood feature films to see, everything from The Invasion of the Body Snatchers to 2001, A Space Odyssey. But the main attraction is Betty Hill, who claims she and her husband were kidnapped in 1961 by a band of strange creatures who took them to their spaceship and gave them physical examinations.
Now, you have to remember they're just like us, individual differences, but basically they're small. 4.5, 5 feet, maybe a little more than 5 foot. And very large eyes, flat profile, almost no nose, thin slit for mouth, no hair, no ears, no eyebrows, no eyelashes.
Are they friendly?
I wouldn't call kidnapping a friendly gesture.
Many of the people attending the Congress are serious scientists. And although you don't hear much about UFOs these days, sightings are still being reported.
We have this police hotline that we get an average of 3.5 calls a day. But the great majority, again, are ad planes and balloons and so forth. But every once in a while, a good many a month actually, are unexplainable. And those are the only ones that we're really considering.
One of the key topics of discussion here is whether most UFO sightings are really physical objects or psychological aberrations, figments of someone's imagination. That debate won't be resolved here, but the fact remains the government itself has been unable to explain many UFO sightings, and that's why these people are here. Chris Kelly, CBS News, Chicago.
Black Panther leader Huey Newton remains in an Ontario, Canada jail today. Newton was arrested by Canadian immigration officials as he got off a plane at the Toronto airport on Saturday night. Newton was en route from Cuba to stand trial for murder in California. Canadian authorities have scheduled a deportation hearing for this Wednesday, but Newton says he wants to remain in Canada at least another week to confer with his lawyers on his upcoming U.S. trial. The next Eyewitness News will be at 6 o'clock this evening. Stay tuned now for Search for Tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow at 12. For Bill and Patty Burns, I'm Eleanor Schano. Have a good day.
Tickets are now on sale for CLO's Broadway musical starting July 12th. Stop by the Heinz Hall box office or call 281-5000.
Does she look stupid, lazy, dumb?
That's what people called her before it was discovered she was a bright girl with a learning disability like 8 million other American children. Her future was dim, but some people who cared designed special programs so she could learn. I'm grateful. I'm her mother. Does your child have trouble learning?
The Young and the Restless, weekdays at 1 o'clock, right here on TV2.
I'm Dick Kurlander, Program Manager of KDKA TV. Do you have something you'd like to get off your chest and tell other Pittsburghers? A point you'd like to make? Your reaction to a news event? Or a cause you'd like others to know about? I'm inviting you to express your views through TV2's Speak Out messages. It's kind of a personalized version of a letters to the editor page of your daily newspaper. If you'd like more information, write to Speak Out, KDKA TV, 1 Gateway Center, Pittsburgh 15222.
KDKA TV2 Pittsburgh, someplace special.
Wait, do you think I should call Liza's hotel again?
Well, you left her a message at the desk. She'll get it as soon as she gets in.
But where could she be?
Sweetheart, there are lots of things to do in New York. I mean, Woody could have taken her out to dinner.
Honey, she promised me she would call me as soon as she got home from the doctor. I knew I never should have let her take this trip.
You prepared her for this trip as well as you could.
I know, but I could have found some way to stop her. Wait, I'm afraid she's going to be hurt all over again.
This is Search for Tomorrow. This portion brought to you by Gleam. Gleam's fluoride foam fights cavities even where you might miss brushing.
Kathy Foster doesn't know it, but she's been using new Gleam for a week.
But this gave me a nice, fresh, clean feeling, It's a cool, fresh, tingly feeling.
This new toothpaste has fluoride in it. Is that important to you?
It's important to me because it helps me to keep down on cavities. I'm going to use this toothpaste because it makes my mouth feel that good.
Tell me, what is it?
Gleam! I can't believe it.
This is new Gleam. It has fluoride, the best cavity fighter you can buy.
Right.
And it also has a new cool...